Hi guys, today I'll be ranking all the epic troops in the game. Here's the tier list. S is the best, while F is the worst. First, we have Necros. Necro is a spawner that spawns 4 skeletons every 2 seconds. She's the only troop in the game that doesn't do any damage. Her main role is to spawn skeletons to tank and distract enemy troops, while your range units wipe them out. She used to be really good in game until they released lots of units that deal splash damage, such as Immortals and Magic Archer. As such, now her skeletons just get obliterated before even reaching the front lines. Here is a typical formation of Necros. I'd play them at the 6th row, such that the skeleton spawn can help to clear up the assassins or gravediggers. And she also walks forward, so it's best to play her more back such that she doesn't walk to the enemy's front lines and die. In summary, I think Necros are still pretty good at the start to mid-game where there are lesser units that deal splash damage. But at the later stages of the game, Necros become useless due to all the splash damage resulting in her skeletons dying. Thus, I have her at C tier. Next, Paladins. Paladins are melee troops that grant a 5% defense boost to allies near him. Although they are tanky, their damage isn't very high. I don't really see him in arena these days. Maybe that's because 5% defense boost isn't a lot, and once he dies, the defense boost is gone. This is my formation for Paladins. I'd play him 3rd row and behind to reduce splash damage. And if you choose to play more than one of them, try to spread them out to maximize the defense bonus. Overall, he's a better version of Iron Guards, so I gave him C tier. Though I think he would be more useful in boss fights than in arena. Next, Alchemist. Alchemist is the only troop that heals people. She has tanky stats, is ranged, and deals decent damage. Based on my observations, her healing comes around every 5th basic attack, or around 10 seconds. Because she's so tanky, I like to play her at the 5th row behind my squishy range units to protect them. Overall, she deals decent damage and is good in arena as well as boss fights. She's an easy S tier. An additional tip I would give would be to play her in boss fights, although she may be low level, and test if you end up dealing more damage because of a heal. Next, Lancer. Lancer is a melee troop that is quite tanky. His ability charges at an enemy and deals damage. Like Butcher, I would suggest playing him at the front lines and just be a meat shield to soak damage. If you do notice that he doesn't charge when played in the 1st row, you may consider playing him at the 2nd row. Overall, he's just a slightly better version of Butcher that charges towards his death. For me, he's an F tier. Only use him if you have no monks or front lines to tank damage. Next, Monks. Monks is a melee troop that is tanky and can soak infinite damage for 5 seconds even after death. Personally, I like to play him since he can distract enemies for 5 seconds, buying your other troops time to kill the enemies. If the enemies play Assassins or Night Hunter, that might actually even help you, since the monks might separate, result in even longer distractions. I like monks because there are tons of different strategies. For example, if I choose to play a defensive monk, I play him at the front row alone, so that he can tank all the damage, and instead of my entire front line dying, only he dies. And if I choose to play an offensive monk, I can play Night Hunters and Assassins, which pushes my monks into the enemy's formation, distracting them while my range unit just splashes everything. Overall, He's an S tier for me, since he can soak infinite damage for 5 seconds, which is super useful. Next, Magic Archer. Magic Archer is very unique since her shot pierces through enemies, meaning her damage can pass through the enemy's front lines and target the back lines. Although she recently got nerfed, she still deals the most damage in the game. She's a must-have in your formation at the later part of your game since her damage is really insane. I like to play her at the second row since she doesn't move forward and just sticks to the spot. If you were to play melee troops in this line instead, they will get splashed by enemies' mage units. By playing her, you're reducing the unnecessary damage. Overall, she's an easy S tier as she deals the most damage in the game. Next, Pyro. Pyro is a ranged unit that deals splash damage. You can think of him as 3 bombers with a third of the damage, meaning that overall, Pyro will do around the same damage as Bomber, but will have 3 times the health. That's good in the sense that if one were to die, the other 2 can still continue to deal damage. Just like Undead Mage and Bomber, I'd play him at the 3rd to 4th row. But honestly, if you protect your mages good enough, there's no reason to use Pyro since his damage is just so weak. Just play Undead Mage that deals more damage instead. Overall, I'll give him a C tier. Next, Storm Mistress. Storm Mistress is a melee troop that can teleport. She activates her ability strategically to cause the most disruption to the enemy's formation. Her teleporting ability is actually super useful, especially when invading enemies' lines or even killing enemy heroes. She's best paired with assassins, Night Hunter, and monks to absolutely disrupt the enemy's formation or to delay them from advancing while your troops advance. I placed her at B tier since if the enemies were to play lots of Immortals or exploding spiders at the front, she's basically teleporting to her death. But apart from that, she's a pretty great troop to use to disrupt and delay the enemy's formations. Next, Lava Golem. Lava Golem is a melee troop that's tanky and deals good damage. His ability gives him more attack and movement speed, and when he dies, he deals death damage. I'd say that he's probably the next best substitute to Immortals, since they both deal pretty good damage and is tanky. Personally, I find his ability to be meh, because by the time he activates it, he would have probably been locked on and wouldn't have much long to live for, and his death damage is pretty low. But overall, he's a great troop to have and can be played with Adelina to maximize her talent. He can also be used in boss fights too. Overall, he's a pretty decent troop and I have him at A tier. Next, Royal Guard. Royal Guard is a melee troop that's pretty tanky. His ability basically jumps into the enemies and deals damage in a radius. He's something like Storm Mistress. However, his ability activates after landing a certain number of hits. Based on my calculations, it took around 8.4 seconds, and with his attack speed at 1.2, that's about 7 basic attacks. And there must be some distance between him and the target, else his ability won't activate. Simply put, his ability is pretty hard to activate, and he'll at most activate it once before dying. He's quite unreliable if you want to use him to disrupt the enemy's backlines, and I think Storm Mistress is a far better alternative. Another way of thinking would be that he's just 3 butchers and just play him at the front lines as a meat shield. Overall, I'll give him C tier since his stats ain't that bad and can still be used in some bosses. Next, Immortals. Immortals is a melee troop that's tanky and deals splash damage. He's super popular for his slightly longer attack range and splash damage, and he deals around the same damage as Magic Archer. That's basically one of, if not the best damage dealer in the game. I'd suggest to play him at the back, so that he can wipe out the assassins and gravediggers, and actually survive for a longer time. I would spend diamonds in a wheel when he comes. Another tip will be playing lots of him might be better than actually leveling him up. So for example, 4 level 9 Immortals will actually deal more damage than 2 level 10s. He's definitely an S tier, and you should use him in your formation. Lastly, Air Elemental. Air Elemental is a melee troop that has great crowd control abilities. However, because he is a melee troop, he often ends up in the enemy's lines and dying. When I tested him, it took about 5 basic attacks to activate his ability. His ability basically sucks a unit into the vortex for 2 seconds, and once they land, the unit gets stunned for 3 seconds. When units are in the vortex, they are untargetable. This may sound pretty good, but in a match, if you play them at the back, and let's say there's only one assassin left, and the elementals use his ability on him, that will actually cause your troops to move forward since he becomes untargetable. And once he drops back down, he'll actually cut your troops back again, helping the enemies delay your troops from advancing even further. And if you were to play him at a normal position, well, he basically just dies without really activating his ability. So I gave him D tier since he's just so bad. If only he had longer attack range, he might even be an S tier troop, but for now, he's terrible. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.